Now I'm going to go ahead and start checking people in. And so it looks like we have Brett Marcoux. Brett, if you're with me, I'll ask everyone to do this. When I call your name, if you could unmute and let me know who you're representing here today.
Yes, David, Springer School and Center. Nice work with the pronunciation, by the way. No one gets that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Nobody.
Nice. All right, welcome. See Kristen Eisman.
Hi, I'm with Springer School and Center as well.
Okay, awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
See, we have Trey Sheldon from our zoning department. Welcome, Trey. Brian all Dickies. You guys are testing me.
It's fine. It's Brian Olagus with SHP, the design architect on the project.
All right, welcome.
Thank you.
Craig Honkamp.
Yep, that is correct. Craig Honkamp with the Clienders Group. We're the civil engineers, surveyors, and landscape architects for the project.
Okay, great. Welcome. So we have Mark Priest.
Yes, with Springer School and Center, and I gave you an easy one, David.
Yeah, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All right, and I see we also have Kate Meehan from our zoning office. Welcome, Kate. All right, I'm going to go ahead and read through our hearing script. This basically just covers the procedure for the hearing, and then we will jump right into it. So this is the May 3rd, 2023 session of the zoning hearing examiner docket. The case before us today is case number ZH20230049. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and the potential opposing parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow the rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the zoning hearing examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any opposing party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. If there were anyone here from the public, they would then have an opportunity to speak after the applicant had presented its case. I will give our zoning department an opportunity to provide any testimony in addition to the staff report that they've submitted. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to that testimony or argument offered in opposition. And then finally, the applicant will have an opportunity to make any closing remarks. So for our purposes here today, I'll give everyone from the Springer School and the Clienders Group and SHP an opportunity to tell me about the project. And really, since you're all going to be speaking on behalf and in favor of the project and the requested relief, you all can orient that presentation however you want. All of you can speak, one of you can speak, really however you think is best to communicate to me what's going on with the project, why I should grant this relief, that sort of thing. And so I will leave that up to you. And like I said, I'm pretty liberal about how you guys want to do that. So it's completely up to you. I'll then go to the zoning staff, allow them to make any comments. I'll have some questions along the way, go back to you guys, let you respond to anything the zoning department has said, make any closing remarks. After all presentations have been made, I'll close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or to make comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those on the fly, but to the extent there's some defect that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay, last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. And so if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, really doing anything other than just strictly observing, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So if you think that's you, or you know that you want to say something, I'm going to collectively swear in all of those people right now. If you're not sure, I can always swear you in later. But if you know you'd like to say something, please take yourself off of mute and raise your right hand. I need everyone to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right. Who will be taking the lead for us here today?
Yeah, David, I'll go ahead. So I guess Brett and Kristen and Mark, first, if you guys want to do a little introduction of Springer School, what Springer School is about, what your mission is, what you do, high level of what the project needs are and what you're trying to accomplish, goals. And then after that, I'll run through our application and go through our request for variances and conditional use with Brian's assistance then as needed for building pieces. All right.
Sounds good.
Great. Thank you, Craig. So my name is Brett Marcoux. I'm the president at Springer. For those that don't know, we're situated just inside Hyde Park, and we're a school for students with learning disabilities such as dyslexia, ADHD, executive functioning. We serve currently students in grades 1 through 8, and we are a small little independent school that's looking to make a big change to campus. So our hope in this project is to add a building connected to our current school building that's set back from the road. Anyone that's driven past Madison Road during dismissal time in the afternoon knows the backup that happens on Madison Road. So our hope here is twofold. Number one, modernize campus and add a new building so that we can take down a much smaller building on the back end of our campus that is outdated and will open up space for parking and transportation, specifically at the end of the school day. So Brian and SHP and Craig and his team have been working diligently to make sure we can get more traffic off of Madison Road at those key times of the day from about 2:30 to 3:30. And in part of that structure, what Brian and Craig will speak to are variances that would be kind of consistent with the floor layout of our current building, but with zoning updates since the construction of the building that we're in right now. Those seemed kind of necessary to make sure our students stay on the same floor when passing from one area to another. So happy to answer any questions about Springer, and Kirsten or Mark, if I left anything out you'd like to add, feel free. No one no. Appreciate the offer. Happy to answer questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it to Craig and Brian.
Thanks, Brett. I may have some questions a little bit later on, but I'll hold them until I hear from Craig as well.
Okay, great. I will go ahead then and find my share screen button. And so I will, let me minimize that. Right size. There we go. So yeah, David and Kathleen and Trey, I'll just run through our application here relatively quickly. So feel free to stop if there's any immediate questions on any page that I'm going through or whatever. And I'll just try to hit the high spots and not spend too long on any one point. And so yeah, application. And so basically, obviously, we are a conditional use in this zone. And so we are applying for a conditional use request. And then we do have 2 variances that we're also applying for. And this was the adjudication letter that Trey and Kate sent in for us, that basically stating those 2 things, the conditional use and then the height variance and the signage variance that we are applying for. And so this was our response letter then, basically explaining the school and a little bit about Brett, what just talked about what the school's mission is and what they do and who they serve, how long they've been in the community, and all those kinds of things. We also addressed parking in here. We don't need a parking variance or anything. We exceed all the parking requirements. We also addressed site lighting in here. We are compliant with the code on site lighting, so we don't have any of those kinds of issues also. And then we are providing all the landscaping and buffering also that is required by the code, so we don't need any variances for that. And then in our conditional use, we just go through all the items that are listed in the zoning code that require us to be able to be approved as a conditional use, and that we are in the public interest and in the spirit of the code in the community. So we've gone through those items then, and then we have listed our 2 variances requests and why we feel that they should be granted. And I'll get into that as I flip through the drawings. So this first one deals with our signage request, and this is the Springer logo, the 2 circles here embedded in each other up at the top of one of the main entry walls is one of the requests that we're asking. We are eliminating one of the signs that is on campus already, and we originally were going to do a more prominent logo up here and have it lighted but then working with staff and understanding, the directions that this face towards some of the neighbors, we reduced it back to just just the logo itself, and we made it non-illuminated. But we do feel it's important to have there, just as this does serve the building entry. You can see the doors here on the right side, bottom right of the image. It does serve as a marker for people that are coming to the campus, mainly other educators from around the city that come here for training, then that they know which doors and which entry that they're supposed to go in, because this is a different entry than where the main student body goes into for classes. So here's just a little bit more of a zoomed out view of that sign.
Craig, is that the sign that's oriented towards the parking lot?
Correct. Yes, it's towards the back of the campus, because since, we do face Madison Road, but all of our parking and drop off and drives is towards the back of the building. Everybody enters the building from the back. And so, yes, this does unfortunately kind of face towards the neighbors, towards the back, instead of out towards the road like traditional would.
Okay. And towards the neighbors, which direction will that actually be facing?
Yeah, so here, let me go. So
Like southwest?
Yeah,
Okay.
Are you able to see my cursor?
I am, yes.
Yeah, so this little wall protruding out there, that sign will be on the right side of that wall, which then does face towards the single family residence that's towards the right. There is a large amount of trees along that property line also, but yeah, it does face that direction.
Okay.
Yep. So this next page here then that I've pulled up starts to get into our height variance. Basically, to determine our allowable height, we take the average elevation at the front of the existing building and then add our 35 feet to that. So here's some other views, and you can also see that sign barely. This is the old version of the sign that still said the logo and the Springer School on it in the top image there. But this is dealing with the height. So basically everything that is shaded in yellow is above that 35-foot average. And again, this is not along Madison Road. It is back towards the back. The other half of the building, or 60 or 70% of the building, is down lower than the height requirement, but that main part of the building, the parapet, is up a couple of feet, up close to around 5 feet higher than the 35. And actually the existing building itself is slightly above, like 1 to 2 feet above the 35-foot code requirement already, but this does go even higher. And then we of course have the mechanical equipment, which I think if you saw in our application, the main building, like I just said, is around 5 feet above the 35 code requirement. And then the mechanical equipment adds another 5 feet to make us up around that 10 to 11 feet above the code requirement. But we feel like, and even in conversations that the school has had with the neighbors, that putting the mechanical equipment up on the roof is a better location for it, just from a visibility impact to the neighbors and a noise sound to the neighbors. So while it does, increase our height variance request, we feel like it is a better location for that mechanical equipment. And so here you can see it in elevation view. Again, the yellow shading is the portions that exceed the 35 feet. And the bump out at the very top is the mechanical equipment. And now we'll just talk a little bit about the parking and circulation. And this shows some of the parking that's going to be reworked. So this is the existing conditions that's out there today. And then here is the new condition. And we've basically really significantly increased the queuing ability, because as Brett said, these are special needs children. There are a lot of parents that drop off or drive their children to the school versus taking a bus. And so because of the high amount of vehicles on here, we've increased the amount of queuing space for those vehicles to try to get relieve some of the congestion off of Madison. And then we've also increased pretty substantially by, I think, 40 spaces, the amount of vehicles that can park on campus. Then too, as some parents will actually park their car, and especially for the younger children, or depending on what the needs are, and actually walk the child into the building. So we've got a combination of increased queuing on site for drop off and an increased parking capacity on site. And then to help improve some of that, where we are expanding the parking, and that was, I'm sorry, I did skip one element. Let me flip back a couple of pages. There we go. Brett mentioned that building that is being demolished then because of the new addition. It sits here between that parking, and that's demolishing that building is what is allowing us to add the extra parking. But then we do want to, because we're adding that parking along the neighbor, we are adding our required buffering and landscaping along there to soften that edge there against the neighbors.
Yeah, is that as I'm looking, I'm sort of going back and forth between the Google Maps here and yours. Is that red brick house right there? Is that the closest neighbor that's right near that parking lot there that's towards the southwest or the southeast, I guess that would be?
Yeah, that is correct. This house, yep, that is the closest neighbor. The other ones then you can see are really a good distance away. And these are just tennis courts and outbuildings here. And then these houses are, and residence buildings are very substantially far away, hundreds and hundreds of feet. And yet we do have the multifamily units on the north side of the building, but not next to the parking. And we have that neighbor is also in support of the project. It's not opposed.
The multifamily or the
multifamily. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So that was the landscaping, and then I'll go through these really quickly, and feel free again if you need me to stop on any page, but these are just the isometric views, perspective views, and they just, I think, help put a good perspective on it. Again, you can kind of see in the bottom right image where that sign is on that wall near the entry for the new addition, but it just rotates around, and you can see it in, seeing this in scale to the existing facility.
Mm-hmm. And you said that sign is non-illuminated, correct?
Correct. It is non-illuminated, and it'll just be the logo. It won't
Got it.
have lettering or words with it. So it's really pretty artistic looking sign. And then back through the site plans that went through grading plan. I don't know that we need to talk about anything on the floor plans, but if you had any questions about uses in the building and program spaces and how it's being laid out, we're happy to answer those, but I don't know that they're germane to the variances and conditional use.
Yep. Agreed.
Okay. And I'll back through the height stuff there. And then just existing photos then. The front of the building from Madison Road are these first two photos. And assuming that our MSD tap and sewer tap ends up going how we plan, this landscaping in the front should remain all as it is in the undisturbed area. And then in the back area, how the student entry kind of works, those are mainly the student entry area. And then this is that driveway that runs along our north property line with the multifamily building, adjacent to us there on the left. And then this is the top photo, shows the lawn area that it previously, about 10 years ago, there was a building there, but it was demolished quite a while, like I said, about 10 years ago, knowing that eventually they were fundraising and planning to do this addition, but there did used to be a building in that lawn green space. And it's just, we're going to just now get the building put back up though. And this is a larger footprint though than the previous building was. Ownership record, community engagement, yes. So you can see this is just the listing, and I know there's been more since this was turned in, a couple of pages worth of all the meetings and correspondence and stuff that has happened. between all of the different parties, between the neighbors and the school and us, clienters and SHP and the neighbors also. And then I think I can skip, these were some of the email correspondence, but subsequently, because at the time of our application, we did not have the full letter of support from Hyde Park Community Council. And so we did just receive that at the end of April after our submission. So I think we did turn that in though to Cassandra, and you should have that in your records then that we did.
Yep, I do. They sent me a copy directly as well.
Okay, great. So that was the last thing that I had on my list. So Brian, did you have anything you want to add to?
I think you covered it very well, Craig. Thank you. I think my only note was in reference to the general building height. Craig mentioned the mechanical equipment kind of pushing the limits a little bit, and that it was a better location to have that on the roof for the neighbors. But in terms of the general building height, tying into that existing building and trying to keep those consistent floor levels for the students and staff was really important. And when it comes to putting together the modern systems to serve this building, to make it a comfortable space to properly learn in and work in, we needed that extra floor to floor height. The existing conditions are very tight, less than 12-foot floor to floor heights with precast concrete structural conditions and lots of exposed systems and structures. And so that extra height allows us to start to conceal those systems and serve those spaces much better to create a better environment to learn and work in.
Gotcha. And Brian, did you say that it also provides some consistency or uniformity from building to building in terms of the floors?
Yes, that is correct. And particularly the third floor has our classrooms on it, and to create a consistency across the building and connection to the existing building with that, so students can flow freely between those two buildings and not have to have a disconnect in those spaces.
Gotcha. As I look at sort of the street view, I'm trying to determine whether there will be much of an impact to the streetscape character as you go along Madison.
Right. Yeah.
How much this will be visible.
As you move up the hill, I really think there's going to be a very minimal impact unless you're looking up the driveway and around the side of the existing building. It's going to be minimal.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from anyone at Springer or anyone on the applicant side here?
I did not have anything else.
Okay. I'll go over to the zoning department. We'll do Trey or Kate. Do either of you want to say anything about the project?
I'll just comment. We've worked with with Craig and with Springer School quite a bit on this project, and we appreciate, all of their, they've been in for meetings and, so we appreciate the opportunity to work with them closely on this project. And we feel like this end result is something that's very compatible. Of course, there does need to be some variance, but it's very sympathetic to the area. There are taller buildings in this area as well. The addition will be tucked back. So again, as you mentioned, probably not very visible from Madison Road. And they worked with us on the landscaping, the signage. So we feel like this final design is a very good proposal. So we were pretty happy with it overall at the staff level.
Okay. Thanks, Kate.
The only thing I might add, David, is that as to the signage, there is when you're in a residential district, the signage allows you one identification sign for a non-residential use, and because this is a school campus and has multiple different entry drives and so on, I wanted to note that they did get relief to put a sign on the south side above the main entrance that does say Springer School. That was several years ago that was approved in another hearing, and they needed that relief because they had an existing sign out at the intersection of Madison and Grandin, and Torrance Parkway comes up there. It's kind of like a three-way intersection, and they, people would not even be able to, if someone was coming there for the first time, even now with cell phones, and directional things, it just serves in a wayfinding capacity. They were gracious enough to agree to remove what at this point is probably an unnecessary older sign in the back parking lot there, because this new logo sign and then the existing sign on the ID sign on the building, it seems to serve adequately, and we appreciated them agreeing to have the sign be non-illuminated. As the other sign's large enough that it's quite apparent, to anybody in the parking lot that this is the school. But this new addition, I guess, will serve. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I know there's going to be some additional tutoring capacity and things like that. So there may be folks here whose children don't regularly attend the school that are coming, the family coming here for tutoring purposes or for training for other teachers, as I understand it. And so for those folks, they're not going to be as familiar with it, David. So I think it's important that they maintain all their existing signage and that, they have that logo there.
Okay. Thanks, Trey. And Kate, for your testimony and for your work on the staff report. Okay. Now's the time for any closing remarks. If anyone would like to give any before we adjourn.
I'm good on my end. I don't know, Brett, if you want to say any closing remarks. Otherwise, I'm good. Thank you, David.
Sure. I appreciate the team of people who have been engaged in the community engagement process for this. I know that SHP and Brian and Craig and his team at Klingingers, our team here, reaching out to neighbors, that spreadsheet with X's in columns is pretty extensive, but it doesn't accurately reflect all of the energy that went into all the engagement activity with folks around. And as Trey and Kate so thoughtfully just said, we've really taken a lot of people's perspectives in and made changes to this plan with Craig and Brian's help so that we can kind of meet the needs of all our constituents. And we feel like this is a plan that has pretty universal support right now. So thanks for hearing us and considering our requests.
Sure, absolutely. Let's leave it at that. I've had a chance to review the application materials and staff report. I'm familiar with the area. I think it's well designed, it's thoughtful, it's an efficient use of space, and I think it would be impractical to strictly enforce the zoning code to this particular project. So I agree with all of you, and I'm going to approve the request. I need to formalize that approval in a written decision. I mentioned at the beginning that typically takes about 2 weeks. I'll do everything I can to get that to you as soon as possible. What I do is as soon as I finish that, I put it into a PDF. I email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you all will have a copy of it really just moments after it's complete. As soon as you have that, Trey and or Kate can go ahead and approve the zoning portion of the permits, and you guys can move forward. Any questions about any of that?
No, good, thank you.
A heartfelt
Thank you.
thank you from our end. Yes.
Great. Yeah, thank you all. It seems like a great project. I wish you the best of luck. If you have any questions in the meantime, feel free to reach out to myself. I'm sure Trey and Kate would be happy to answer any questions as well. If you'd like a status update on the decision, you can reach out to me directly. I'll let you know where I'm at. But like I said, as soon as I have it complete, it'll be in your emails. Okay, great. Thanks again,
Thank you very
guys.
much.
Have a wonderful day. We are adjourned.